Here's another sign that the anti-Trumpers are running out of ammo. And I talked about this before, but I'm going to go back to this point over and over in my periscopes, because the more you see of it, the more impactful it is. The more it will change how you think, all right? So I went through a few articles, anti-Trump articles on CNN, and I pulled out the specific criticisms. And when I say the specific criticisms, that's sort of an oxymoron, because these are very unspecific criticisms. So watch how generic and vague and general these are. So these are all the things that people said about the president, the anti-Trumpers said about him, and see if you can figure out what problem any of this caused, okay? He is unstable and also highly unstable. And he's unhinged, he's impulsive, he's dictatorial, he's reactionary, he's made an all-out assault on the press. He's raised serious questions about checks and balance. He's out of control, he's dangerous. There's a leader such as him, that's a phrase, a leader such as him. So what's that mean? Speculation about his temperament, dark portrait painted of him by somebody else. He's a divisive figure, no details given. Emotional declarations seem manipulative. I'm talking about him. They say his emotional declarations seem manipulative. Isn't he a politician? He has the maturity of an 8-year-old boy with the insecurity of a teenage girl. And then there's Manafort may know what the Russians wanted. He may. And I also may grow wings and fly. I mean, that's may know something is a pretty big category. Or something could be very bad. Now did you notice that none of those attacks against the president have any specific meaning that you could tie to an actual event, that you could tie to a bad outcome? So there's nothing like, I'll just pick one of these out of the list. He was impulsive, and therefore he did X, and X turned out poorly. Where's that? Remember that Woodward said that specific examples are the building blocks of journalism? There are no building blocks. It's all generic. He's impulsive. He's unhinged. But how did unhinged affect anything? Which decision was it that was unhinged? Why did this unhingedness hurt us? It's kind of vague. Kind of vague. And then there's the category I call mind reading. This is where somebody criticizes the president based on what they imagine he thinks. That's not a thing. We don't know what other people are thinking. We can tell what they're doing, half the time anyway. Sometimes we can't even tell that. But we certainly can't tell what people are thinking. So here's some things from CNN, these phrases. So these are phrases that people were referring to the president. He's determined to prove two things. Is he? How do you know what the president is determined to do? You can tell what he does, but you can't really tell what he's determined to do. That's mind reading. How about his hatred for others? His hatred for others? What's that? You know, who's he talking about? Are you reading his mind? Because he hasn't expressed it in words, but somehow you know about his hatred for others. His motivations are transparent, somebody said. Are they? Are his motivations transparent? Do you know what motivations rarely are? Transparent. You know, I mean, so you can guess why you think somebody's doing something. You know, there's some that are obvious. But when you're saying his motivations are transparent, why don't you just say what his motivation is? And then say why that's true. Why do you need to be general about it? How about his desire to be seen as more humane? Well, can you think of anybody who doesn't have a desire to be seen as humane? Especially a politician. Is there a politician who you could not say that about? Well, you know, Joe Biden, he doesn't like to be seen as humane. It's not a thing. Every politician wants to be seen as humane. And if people are criticizing him on that domain, well, of course. His true emotional nature is cold. Is it? Who knows the president's true emotional nature? How would you even know that? And then you look for the phrase, he wants. You'll see, I saw it several times. I wrote it down once. Talking about the president. He wants this. He wants that. He wants that. Now, there's some things you can say unambiguously. He wants to build a wall. You know, there's some things that he's said. And so when you say what he wants, you're talking about what he said he wants. That's fair. But if you say he wants, and then you fill in something that he's never said, that's not reporting. That's mind reading. All right. So look for this, and I'm going to add to my list as we go. Look for the vague, you know, it's dark, he's impulsive, he's unhinged, etc. All right, here's another tell. Now, this next tell is the most hidden one, and it's the one that you wouldn't notice if I didn't tell you. Because I am a professional writer. I am a person who has written books and written articles. And there's some things that a professional writer would know that you wouldn't necessarily know. And it goes like this, especially if you're writing for a news organization. So this has more to do with the news industry. You would never, in the context of news, use the word very or the word highly. I said never, but I'll soften that. Sometimes you would. But they are not words that you would use in good writing. So in other words, there's an article about the president in which he is called highly unstable. I think that's the one. Yeah, highly unstable. So this is an article that got past the editors. The professional writer wrote it. Professional editor, at least one, saw it. So there were two professional writers who saw the words highly unstable about the president. Do you know what's wrong with that sentence? Highly. Highly is a word you should just get rid of. Any professional writer would know that the word unstable covers it. You would get rid of the word highly because it doesn't add anything and it just makes the sentence longer. Every professional writer knows that. Why is the word highly still in the article when clearly the author who wrote it and the editor who saw it both know it doesn't belong there? Why? Because the word unstable didn't get it done. Even though the word unstable does get it done, in other words, as a writer, the word unstable says it all. Unstable is kind of an absolute, right? You don't need to be highly unstable. You're just, unstable is this whole range of we don't know what's going to happen because it's unstable. The adding the highly signals to the audience that even the writer knew the word unstable didn't mean anything, or it didn't mean enough. It was too inert. So they wrote it and they said, this president is unstable, and thought, I don't know, the way I feel about the president is not being captured in the word that is totally accurate. See where I'm going on this? The accurate word did not convey how they felt. So they had to write it poorly to make it feel something. They had to imbue it with their emotion because they couldn't let it just lay on the page being just an objective word about whether he's unstable. Now I don't know if in that context objective doesn't mean true. It just means that it doesn't have the highly on it. And then in one of these articles also used the word very, V-E-R-Y. If you put the word very in front of something in professional writing, your editor should be crossing that out. Because if you were to say, for example, impulsive versus very impulsive, generally your editor would take the very out of that sentence because it's not adding. So look for veries and highlies and other words that professional writers wouldn't normally use, but they need to throw in a little hate. They need a little extra. They knew they needed some seasoning, but it wasn't enough. The words just were too flat. So look for that.